Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are looking at an absolutely massive milestone in our journey through the text. We've hit day 28. In any complex technical journey, all that theory eventually has to become tangible reality, right? This is the culmination of the whole code review process, and the instruction here is surprisingly simple. Build your portfolio. Literally, this is the exact moment where all those abstract concepts we've been tracking finally take on a physical, shareable form. We're going to meticulously break down the exact source requirements for this milestone, making sure you know absolutely what needs to be built. So what actually happens on day 28? Well, our source material frames this not just as, another day on the calendar, but as the pivotal moment of transition. You're moving from just being a reviewer of isolated code snippets to a full-fledged professional curating your own expertise. And honestly, it's a notoriously difficult leap for a lot of developers. Why? Because you aren't just dumping files into a folder anymore. You are architecting a showcase. The source is incredibly specific about how this portfolio must be structured if you want it to be considered complete. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is exactly how we're going to construct this ultimate portfolio checklist step by step. First, day 28, your portfolio. Then, the core reviews. Next up, security and performance. And finally, the before and after proof. All right, starting off with section 1, day 28, your portfolio. This repository is the foundation of everything to come. Now, the source text is extremely explicit here. It says to create a GitHub repository named exactly this, Code Review-Portfolio. This is absolutely crucial. It's not just a casual suggestion. It's a strict naming convention. In open source and professional environments, sticking to this exact standard signals clarity and purpose. It acts as this highly discoverable container, sometimes even for automated scraping tools that technical recruiters use, believe it or not, making sure your day 28 achievement is right there, exactly where people expect it to be. So how exactly does a completely blank repository transform into a finished portfolio? Well, think of it kind of like building a house. Step 1 is pouring the foundation, which is creating that exact repository we just talked about. But, a foundation needs a structure. The text commands us to include specific elements to build the walls and the roof. So step 2 brings in the core reviews. Step 3 layers on specialized audits, and then step 4 finishes the interior with concrete examples. It's a beautifully logical progression that builds a really compelling case for your skills. Moving right along to section 2, the core reviews. These are the very first foundational things you absolutely must include. The source material keeps it simple here. It just lists Review 1 and Review 2. But let's pause and think about why the text demands 2 separate reviews. I mean, anyone can get lucky once and spot a rogue typo, right? But finding structural flaws across multiple reviews, that proves actual hard-earned skill. By requiring 2 distinct pieces of evidence, the portfolio establishes a clear, consistent pattern of code evaluation. It essentially proves that your ability to analyze and improve code is a repeatable, reliable methodology, not just some one-off fluke. Okay, section 3, security and performance. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the source explicitly requires both a security audit and a performance audit side by side. These are 2 distinct, absolutely vital pillars of a well-rounded portfolio. And you might be wondering why these 2 specifically. Well, because they represent the holy grail of code reviews, risk management, and cost efficiency. A security audit shows you can protect systems from vulnerabilities, right? Well, a performance audit proves you can optimize code to scale without burning through a ton of unnecessary server costs. Together, they demonstrate a truly multifaceted approach to quality. You aren't just looking for syntax errors anymore, you're safeguarding and optimizing the bottom line. And that brings us to section 4, before and after proof. The tangible evidence needed to completely finish your day 28 task. The final inclusion demanded by the text is before and after examples. This is it, the ultimate visual proof of transformation. It's one thing to just say you reviewed code, but it's another thing entirely to display this tangled knot of spaghetti code in the before state right next to a pristine, efficiently organized grid in the after state. It is undeniable proof that your audits resulted in real-world impact. This is exactly where you separate yourself from someone who just leaves theoretical comments to someone who fundamentally improves the code base. So the crucial point is, how does this all unite perfectly? Well, it starts with that exact repository name, establishes a solid baseline with the core reviews, layers on those specialized security and performance audits, and caps the whole thing off with undeniable visual proof. When these exact pieces from the checklist come together, you have followed the Day 28 blueprint to the absolute letter. This checklist doesn't just build a folder of files, it constructs a comprehensive narrative of your professional capability. Which leaves us with one final, highly essential question. Is your code review portfolio ready? Think about it. You have the blueprint, you have the structure, and you know the exact requirements. Literally, the only thing missing right now is your execution. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Now get out there, take action, and let your code speak for itself.